And thank you very much. You both did a great job. I'm so happy to have volunteers. I told them they're better than funding. So I would like to introduce Paul DeLisio. Recently, his sister-in-law lives next to my mom, and I go over and get to walk with them sometimes, which is really nice. And I was sharing with her a bit about what we were doing, and she shared with me an incident that happened to her and her husband, and I asked her if she would like to speak about it, but she's not a speaker. So I then realized that Mr. DeLisio, it was his brother that was in the incident. So I asked if he'd come speak today. So he agreed, and I thank you so much for being here. And if you'd like to come up and share your experience, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Marie, and thank all the volunteers. It's extraordinary. Everybody has tough life stories, and everybody has a different way that they get through them. And some of these programs that help each of us get through. And I think there's probably no adult that you know that along the way hasn't had a hand up and hasn't had a problem that somehow they got through. Some ugly, some not so ugly. The case of my brother, who was 36, his wife was 38, and he had 6 children. And he hadn't lived an exactly perfect life, but at that point in his life, he was running a successful business, and he was very active locally in Woodstock and doing a great job. He was really making a turn in his life that was quite extraordinary. And he and his wife were driving into Woodstock on Route 212. They came around a curve, and there was another car that came around the curve in the opposite direction, hit his driver's door, and killed him immediately. So his wife was there. She lived. She wasn't injured. They had 6 children from 16 to 5. And sometimes I think the impact that things like that can happen, you know, can even happen, and the person didn't have to be on drugs or even on alcohol, that you come around, you're inattentive, and it's a lesson for each of us. Even my lady friend would tap me once in a while and say, you know, would you be a little more careful in your driving because you're paying attention to something else, perhaps a telephone or something else that's going on. But that moment in time, it turned out that a young man, 17, was driving the car under the influences of drugs. And when you think of and internalize what that affected, it affected a wife with 6 children and no means of support because there wasn't a lot of funds left around. And so each one of those 6 children, who are now in their 40s and some a little younger, have a personal story to tell, and I wish they could tell the story, because really I was a bystander. And somebody mentioned to me at the funeral, they said, Paul, we really feel sorry for you for the loss of your brother. How many of you have brothers or sisters here? See, everybody. So you can imagine how you'd feel, or your friends, so you can internalize that. But they said, you know what? I really feel sorry for your mom and dad, because life is not supposed to be that way. So when you think of that ripple effect, a mother, 6 children, a mom and a dad, brothers and sisters, and again, I wish that Jill would tell her story, because she wasn't a bystander, and her children could tell their story because they were in it, and they have feeling, they have scars that still they have scars. So their children still have scars from an incident that was one person not paying attention under the influence of drugs. And I think it reminds all of us that what could happen. You have great stories here in your mentors. Where does that go? It says that mentors are the best for all of us to bring us through difficult times. Because everyone here, if you spoke to everybody here, they would tell you some very, very difficult points in their lives. And many would tell you how somebody gave them a hand up at just the right time, and so that they got through. And it wasn't that bad things don't happen to everybody, it's what you do with the bad things that happen. So this program is a perfect example of how people can work together, and far more, as you say, the government programs, there's no money that can take the place of one-on-one individual counseling as you do, and talking to each other from the heart, and how you got through it. Much more important than anything that I could say. But I think for each of us, it's valuable to think of how our actions each day, whether we're in this program, whether we have an addiction or not, what profound effect they can have. And I think of the young people here and just think one moment didn't mean that you were a bad person. It just meant that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and how it affected all of your life. And your testimony and your discussion, your counseling with other youngsters to say that maybe they missed that incident in their life, and as a result they don't have to go through what you did have to go through. Because we were talking with the adults earlier today and saying how many times there, but for the grace of God, each one of us could be in a similar situation. So for you to help this program and bring this into fruition, Marie, for you to work on this program is extraordinary. And as Michael Hines said, extraordinary for the community, because this is the fabric of a community where community reaches out, helps each other get through, and it does make a strong community. So we thank each of you for helping us make this a better community.